I'm gonna do a follow-up to the last video I made, which is my channel is a lie and I'm a liar, blah, 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 blah. Based on something that happened to me yesterday. I was out for a walk. I went to the chiropractor, I went to the grocery store, I came back, and I look in the mirror and I'm fatter. And I'm like, how are you fatter than when you left here? Now, obviously that wasn't actual fat, it was water retention. And why do you have water retention? Mostly cortisol, because you are stressed out. And I'm like, why am I stressed out from a walk? A walk should not be that stressful. So I started really thinking, and I started looking at some of my walks on my phone. I don't really track it any other way. The worst part about tracking walking on your phone is, like yesterday, for example, it took the whole thing into account. So the whole thing meaning I sat at the chiropractor for probably 25 minutes or so. And then I was at the grocery store and I had to stand in line. That's not walking, but it takes it into account and your average walk speed. So it's really hard. So I look back at some of my walks where I just walked. There was nothing else but walking. And on average, I walk between 3.6 and 4 miles an hour. I don't know if that's fast or not, but usually when I'm on a full walk like that, or just, you know, it's fairly hilly here. I think it's probably an 8% grade, the hill that I got to walk up to get to the avenue that I need to walk over to the chiropractor. And I'm thinking about this, and cortisol, I know cortisol is an issue. I know digestion's been an issue, and I knew my hips were an issue. Now the hips are starting to fix themselves, but because of that, it's causing a little bit more recovery time. And I think that's causing a little bit of cortisol. So I did write some things down here. So cortisol issues cause fat tissue. You can't really break fat down when you have high cortisol. I don't even know, I don't even think it's possible at all. Because cortisol comes in, it basically tells your body to not do anything other than just get out of the situation that you're in. But I'm not in any situation. I'm not in any situation at all. The other thing that I run into that a lot of people probably aren't going to run into is hemoglobin. Mine is very high. The last time I had it measured, it was an 18.2. The people can barely even get the blood out of my vessels, even test the blood. This is with me peeing clear. So I know I'm hydrated. I just have so much hemoglobin. It's insane. It's like a doper's level. It was an 18.2. Once it gets to, from what they said, about a 20, that is, you can have a stroke at you know, once it gets to a 20. So I've got high endurance on a body that can't handle it. And I think that's what's going on. And I think that a lot of people aren't going through that, but they are going through over-exercising themselves. Like I'm watching some of Durian Ryder's real fans, you know, the ones who adopt his way of everything really, really high. And I've noticed that they've been getting fatter, but I also noticed that they brag about how much they ride bike, how much they exercise. And I'm thinking, like, when you're skinny or when you're at normal weight and you exercise, you're not going to raise your cortisol like you are if you're overweight. And so when you're overweight and you're over-exercising, your cortisol goes up and away. And it doesn't do that when you're skinny. So people who are trainers, who are you know, slender, normal weight, whatever you want to call it, are not going to understand this, I don't think, because they've probably never been overweight. And another thing that I wanted to touch on before I really get into this video, a few things that I wanted to address. Diets that I've tried, every single one. Bodybuilding diet, chicken, rice, broccoli diet, the beef yam broccoli diet, the keto diet, carnivore diet, raw vegan, plant-based, starch. I mean, you name it. Paleo is the only one that I really didn't try. I don't really know what paleo actually is. I don't know if paleo actually knows what paleo is. Another thing is a lot of people like to come in and say, well, you did carnivore wrong. No, I didn't do carnivore wrong. I didn't do keto wrong. I did lose weight. I had all of the things that come along with them. My liver stopped working. Well, not stopped working, but it really took a dive. And then that's when my weight just started piling on. It was crazy. It was like, I went from like 225 to 422 pounds so quick. It was less than a year. And I actually started going to doctors for the first time. And I know I've told this story, but there's a lot of new people, or there's a lot of people who like to come on here and tell me that I'm just making excuses, that I don't actually want to lose weight. And to that, I'm saying, how much money am I losing by being overweight? I don't make a ton of AdSense off these videos because I don't have a ton of, I have 175 pounds. I don't, but I'm still have some weight on me, right? How much money could I be making if I could show before and after pictures where I was just shredded, or not, I don't want to get shredded. I just want to get like a normal weight. I just don't like the way that looks. I just don't like the way it looks. Just a normal, like a really good weight where you can see definition, some definition and everything like that. Can you imagine how much money I would make? How many people would be on my Patreon? How much? So I'm losing money off this. This is not something that I'm like, well, I'm just going to stay fat forever so I can complain and cry about it on like, for me. This is not that. This is a journey that I have been on. And ironically, it started when I was like 205, maybe 215 pounds, way back in the day. I wasn't even fat. I had a little bit of extra weight on me from, I don't know. I still had the penguin walk at that point. Now, when I'm in my 40s, my body, I prayed about it, and all of a sudden my body's working the way it's supposed to work, was getting there. Maybe like 10% of the people say that they want my mobility stuff. If I can figure out how to relay what has happened to me in words and help others, I will certainly do that, because it is so freeing to just be able to walk. It just, like, oh, that's why this is, built like this, and this is why that's built like this. Anyway, side rant over. Let's get back to it. I do have notes. All right, so here's one of the things is, because I have high endurance, and even if you don't have high endurance, you can think of this as like a mother with a child holding the child's hand and walking. The child's walking behind the mother. The mother's got a ton of stuff to do, and she's just walking at blazing speed. The child can't keep up. All of a sudden, the child trips and falls and is crying, and then the mother turns around like, oh my God, like, what did I do? And is consoling the child. And now you've got to take all that time to console the child when you could have just walked at a normal pace and the child could have walked with you. So in this case, your ambition is the mother and your body is the child. And the child can't keep up with the ambition that you have in your head. You are, I don't know, let's say 422 pounds, and you're trying to exercise like somebody who's 130 pounds. It's just not going to work. So you're causing more stress than is needed. And then you're going to retain water, and your cortisol is going to go up. And when your cortisol goes up, you can't really lose any fat. And then you're like, oh, I'm exercising and I just keep getting fatter. And then I'm like, I'm like, and here's the other thing too. When cortisol is high, you're either going to not be hungry at all, can't even get it down, or you're going to be ravenous. And I've had both. And then another thing that I wanted to address from the video, and I know I've talked about this before, but I know I've actually had a fairly large amount of people join the channel recently. My digestion, everybody thinks when you say I've got bad digestion is you're not taking a dump. Complete opposite. I take like 6 a day sometimes, like 3 to 6 a day. But the issue that I run into, and I think what's happening, I think I found out what's happening is it just comes out the way it went in. Like, well, you're not chewing enough. Like I know how to chew. I annoy people with how much I chew usually. It just comes out the same way it went in. And I think what's happening is, anyway, the body's like, I don't even know. We don't even have enough to recover the glucose as you lost. You did all this damage over here. Get as much in here as possible, but then it's too much, and then it's just like, well, we can't digest all of this because this isn't functioning either. So the whole system's requiring energy, but it can't digest it fast enough. They're just getting rid of it. As we saw in the Minnesota starvation study, when the cortisol is really high and the starvation thing happens, you start retaining a ton of water. I mean, some of these people, I forget how much they were holding, but it was like 15, 20 pounds of water. And they could measure, I forget how they measured this, but they were measuring this stuff, so it is true. All right, so that's half my notes here. Another thing that I talked about in some of my previous videos is actually my gateway into keto I also did a 60-minute walk every day at my parents' house. I don't know if I hadn't fully gone keto yet because I was still having yams and sweet potatoes and rice with it. Yams are hard to find. So I wasn't full keto, but I was walking 60 minutes a day. And that particular winter was a really bad one. I remember it. So I was forced to walk slowly because we were having so much ice and snow that I didn't have a choice. I was walking around the neighborhood. We did have a treadmill. On days that it was really bad, I would use the treadmill, whatever you want to call it. And I remember one particular time I was so acidic that and I didn't know this, I was on the treadmill, and I had it at a 15% incline, and I was walking at maybe like a 2 or 3 mile an hour pace, and I had a bead of sweat fall on my glasses at the time, and it actually ate a hole through the glass. It was so acidic. So all of that gunk that I had in me and all of the extra meat and fish that I was eating was just creating such an acidic atmosphere. But I did lose a bunch of weight. It kind of was a skinny fat scenario, but I did lose a bunch of weight. But I wasn't able to walk that fast, on top of the fact that my feet were killing me because I hadn't had the ankle replaced yet. So it was a bunch of things in combination. So I wasn't walking as fast. Now that I can walk at a somewhat more normal pace, I don't think the body can. So like my endurance is causing my body, or it is writing checks that my body can't cash. And I think that's what's happening. So the pound a day of sugar that I did it in 2022, which having a pound a day of sugar for like 2 months in a row, I think it was, I was looking incredible. So I think it was lowering my cortisol. My testosterone doubled in that amount of time. I did a video about this in like June or July of 2022. My thyroid started working correctly again. And I mean, people were making comments on the videos of how good I was looking, and I was feeling really good too. I don't know how to replicate that without destroying my stomach though. And then the last thing I wanted to say, adding a bit of fat slowed the digestion enough. So my digestion, since I haven't added a ton of fat, it might be 20 to 30 grams a day. It's slowed, and it's all in one meal. I concentrate in one meal, which is technically dinner, but technically lunch, like kind of lunch, because I eat it early enough that I've got hours before I go to bed. And then I just make like popcorn or something like that before I go to bed with just like, I know this sounds terrible, but popcorn, ketchup, and nooch is like the best combination ever. And that's it. I think that's what's happening. What am I going to do to kind of try to test this? And keep in mind, the last thing I wanted to say is the average of 3.6 miles an hour is mostly with my nose, or just nose breathing. I want to get to a point where my entire walk is nose breathing. So it's at just a low enough level, like zone-wise, zone 1, 2, 3, whatever, that I can maintain just breathing with the nose. I don't want to have to exert myself. So whatever pace that ends up being can work back up. My goal was actually to get to like a 5 or 6 mile an hour walking pace. It might take me a lot longer to get there than I thought, but it might not. I don't know. Who knows? My endurance is there. The capability of my body, and it's the same thing with bike riding. My average is like 17 to 20 miles an hour, but my body is sore afterwards sometimes. It just can't keep up with the endurance that I have. And I don't even know why I've got a hemoglobin like this, but like everybody in my family is like this, like my immediate family. So that's it. It's a combination of things. Everybody's going to call it, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to call it an excuse. It's not an excuse. Again, like I said earlier in the video, I don't want to be this weight. You know, how much money could I be making off coaching people if I was, you know, a more slender weight? I mean, come on, think about this. These people don't think. These profiles who come on here with not even a picture on it, who claim they have all these great results, but they won't even make videos about it or help anybody about it. So it's really believable, but you know, think about it. Why would I want to say this? I've running this channel now for 3 years. This all started off of, Like, someone came on here and was like, you should just eat 1,000 calories a day and do 2 hours of exercise. Like, what? How stupid are you? How stupid are you? Yeah, it's gonna work in the short term. You are screwing, you are worse off than the Minnesota starvation people. What are you thinking? Okay. Anyway, this all started because I was doing the 50-50 plate. I was farting like crazy. I had ballooned up from 262 pounds to 292 pounds while doing the 50-50 plate. I thought I was losing weight at the time, and then I weighed myself. I'm like, what the hell? And so that is why I started this channel. I wanted to warn people about this 50-50 plate. That's why I wanted to interview McDougall, because I had seen McDougall tell people not to do the 50-50 plate, that he only wrote that book basically, you know, he wishes he didn't write that book. He said it in my interview, you know. So anyways, that is what I think is happening. Basically, bottle it down. My endurance, I think, is causing issues with my body not being able to recover. What can you do? What can you do? Hopefully this video helped you. If it did, give it a like. Weight under my chest. I mean, it's just, I'm like, what? I guarantee that's what happened. I guarantee that's what happened. I was just walking faster than my body could handle, and it started getting stressed out, and it started retaining water. I don't know the mechanism there. Probably not gonna look into it. I don't really care that much. All I care about is getting done with this. Anyway, that is my video. I know I've ended it like 3 times now, but that's just my way. Talk to you in the next one. Peace.